So, very good afternoon to you, ladies. I can see you're ready for a conversation.
Yeah.
Excellent. So today we're just going to have a very simple conversation. I think it's a conversation that takes place in almost every conference, everywhere you go, you hear people talking about it. So it's a conversation around the participation of young people. And it's just to try and pick the different perspectives in terms of how would you feel or what could be your expression in terms of what it means for young people to, when you say meaningful participation of young people or just the participation of young people. So I'm going to ask the question first to Brenda and then Bosiswa. So I'll start with the first question. Brenda, what is your appreciation or understanding of youth participation?
Okay, thank you so much. My understanding of youth participation is when they do things with the full understanding and consultation, the full involvement of the youth, without leaving them behind. Every program that you come up with that is meant for the youth, they have to be involved in it. So you'll be sure that they are actively consulted on issues that surround their well-being, and we give them the platform to express themselves in terms of activities, in terms of issues of governance, and various areas that we can talk about that are related to the youth or affect the youth. So they have to be fully involved from initiation, from the planning stage. They have to be involved and participate all the way through up to the implementation stage.
Okay, well that's fine. Very interesting. Very interesting. I know you've been in the sector for quite some time, and you're one of the leading pioneers in Zambia in terms of championing involvement and participation. So I think you really touched a bit even on the second question, but I will still ask it because I want to see whether there's a difference between just the general participation and meaningful participation. What would be your take?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I know I even went a bit into the second question.
Yes.
When we talk about meaningful participation, it should be something that is result-oriented when it comes to youth activities. So the youth are supposed to be pioneer. Let them drive their own agenda. Yes. Yeah. And put them, ensure that build capacity and let them lead as they want, even as you monitor their activities stage by stage without letting them
Excellent. No, I think you have touched on one aspect that will be interesting maybe as we are going to conclude, right? But let's hear from Bosiswa your perspective. In the context of Eswatini, what could be youth participation mean to you?
Okay, let me answer the question quite differently. Let me first start I believe there's a difference between participation and meaningful participation. She's mentioned a lot of things, but I guess for me now it's just additions to what she said. Now, when you compare the two, right now, this is participation. And then you spoke about an expected outcome in the end. What is the expected outcome of this conversation? So then I believe that just an addition of what you've already said about an expected outcome. I'd love to say with an expected outcome, there are certain processes that have to be expected there as well. You can't just say you want you to participate considering the fact that if there are also expected outcomes, it also means, do they have the technical expertise for them in order to have the outcome? Now, when we're now talking about meaningful youth participation, it means that there will be technical support that will be there, that will be provided, so that as the youth are first engaged in what or whatever solutions that they are coming up with, and whatever innovations that they are coming up with. Okay, now there is an innovation. Is there support provided for them? Whether it is technical, whether it is capacitation, for them to have the technical expertise in order for them to be able to fulfill the expected outcome and the expected result. Because if you just want them to participate, I remember our first work contributing in our MDCs. There was this time where youth were called for the meeting, and then we were put in the corner and we were told to deliberate on what you'd want, while everyone was discussing water, the different sectors, and then we were like, but meaningful participation is take the youth and put them in the different discussions, so that in as much as your understanding is that you might not have the experience and the technical expertise, but for them to know, you need to have them participate in the actual activities that will have expected outcomes, other than just saying them there and saying, okay, so tell us what you want. All of those things need to fit into whatever that is being provided, and I think therefore that is meaningful participation. Participation for me is just sticking.
Okay.
It's just having it.
No, it's interesting perspectives coming out, and I think I would throw this back to you guys as we conclude.
Yeah.
Because you touched on quite a number of things. You really spoke about the issues to do with involvement. That is creating platforms for people to find space to participate. And secondly, you also spoke about the issue of capacitation. But I think there is also something that I want to just check with you, especially when it comes to the concept of creating mechanisms that helps young people to bootstrap themselves. So, you know, if you look at other regions, Asia, North America, Europe and all that, you realize that young people have got mechanisms and institutions that gives them that capacitate them from a very early age, that when they get to university, they are already participating in the mainstream. They are not asking anyone to create space for them, but they already have internal built mechanisms that can make them resilient and that can sustain them in the demands of the market economy. Because if you look at most of the times when we're asking for youth participation and meaningful youth participation, we are making this clarion call to government. But what is the role of government in the scheme of things in the global economy? Because the private sector is the one that's driving the entire economy. That is driving the entire global economy. So if the ones that are driving the global economy do not understand the concerns of young people, because what they demand is expertise.
Skills.
What they demand is output. So for me, I would think the question must be more on the empowerment that starts at an early age. Then you create levels of youth participation that is incremental. So that when you start at 14 years, by the time you get 25, you already introduce yourself into the mainstream without anyone creating anything for you. So that value creation, for me, I think that's something that's missing in our context. So when you talk about incubation hubs, you must be talking about that. It's a way of creating a value system. That then when someone comes to the incubation hub, they're coming to buy a patented solution, a patented idea. So when you sell an idea, you have copyrights. And you are earning when you're going to school. So that's capacitation. You're already creating space for your participation in the mainstream economy without lobbying anyone. So for me, my thinking is that in the context of what we're saying and building on that, we could then be talking about, no, let's have an incremental process that does not start talking about their participation when they are now trying to go into the mainstream, but let it start from the end. Just 1 minute, then we close.
Reflection. I'd first love to actually appreciate the work that without the government creating the systems that you are talking about. So I guess now probably in how we are lobbying, other than just requesting for technical support and capacity building, now probably the way that we should be shifting what we're requesting for is the incremental capacity building. However, I feel like we are all moving in the right direction. The work that activists and advocates are doing, especially in Africa, making sure that there is space for young people. Right now, we are we're sitting on the tables, but the question is, what are we doing on those tables? So I think what you are pointing out is very important. But again, it goes back to the government creating those spaces. Once they have created those spaces, then that is where the solution is. Then everything, it feels like a circular economy, you know. It feels like everything
I think it's a very interesting one because I spoke to one friend in South Africa who was telling me it was a job.
Yeah.
You know, he was talking about this thing of saying young people, they are the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he was saying, I was talking to Thabo Mbeki
Yeah.
a couple of years ago
Yeah.
when he was still the vice president of South Africa. And he said, young people, you must be patient. You are the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then he indicated that 20 years down the line, he still went to the same office and he was told the same story that you are the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's no vacuum. And the leadership space is almost occupied. And I think there's need for that superior logic, superior, when you have superior value that you're proposing, or the superior value proposition that you're proposing to a system, then obviously there can be space that will be created for you. Because free beer tomorrow is just a name, it doesn't exist. Maybe you're closing your
What you've just mentioned here actually reminds me of the recent remarks that the second parliamentarian made when there is a certain member of parliament is trying to come up with a political party and he's calling it Ichara, meaning for the young.
Oh yes, oh yes.
And that was a debate, a topic in Parliament, and everybody, almost 90% of our leaders, they were against that. And what came out was that it's not yet for the young people to lead.
Imagine.
So we look at the environment that we are in. Is it enabling for the young people to go into such?
So there's need for disruption.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can only disrupt
Yeah.
or upset the
Systems.
balance
Yes.
when you have a superior value proposition.
Yes.
Of course, modalities are there. We're busy. It's on paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're busy talking about we have this for the youth, we have this for the youth. But what is there on the ground?
Very
We
interesting.
need to inculcate that from an early stage. Infuse it into the
Right.
education curricula at a primary level, like you earlier mentioned, so that as they advance in their education, they are growing with that. They're able to identify the strengths of each and every young person as they become into adulthood or into the age of youth. They're able to fit in different
Yes.
sectors, different categories, because the foundation was already established for them. Yeah. So it's about the question of how is the environment? Is it enabling for the youth to go into any of these issues for us to have that meaningful participation of the young people?
Wow.
Yeah.
I think there you have it. Very interesting conversation. Youth participation, meaningful youth participation. I think it's a topic that you can discuss
it's
for the whole
broad.
day.
Yeah.
You know, depending on the context, where you're coming from, your experiences, the environment itself, where you're coming from as well. And I think from the closing remarks that you were making, both of you guys, you know, just appreciating the fact that there's work that has been done, groundwork that has been done. If you look at the African Youth Charter, a perfect document that speaks at, you know, the aspirations of young people, the quota systems that are proposed in the African Youth Charter, building foundations for all member states to adapt and adopt into their national policies, which is a very good fundamental, good groundwork that has been established. But I think now is the issue to say, how then do we make sure that as young people we establish the mechanisms that makes sure that the environment, whether conducive or not conducive, it has to be. Thank you very much for this discussion.